Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of Catfish on Ice. We all got our heads down a little bit here because the Preds, they are currently on a losing streak. They've lost 2 in a row. Just lost to the Columbus Blue Jackets in 5 rounds of shootout. It's never fun to lose in the shootout. It's definitely not fun when it goes 5 rounds. David Riddick did what he could. He gave up 2 goals in the first 6 shots that the Columbus threw at him. The Preds, they looked rusty coming out. Let's let you know what we got in store for you here on episode 92 before we fully break down what we just watched. The Preds just lost in a shootout to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get into that and fully break down that game for you, let's let you know what we got in store for you. Again, this is episode 92 of Catfish on Ice, presented by DraftKings. We're part of the Hockey Podcast Network, and this is your host, Chad Minton, with co-host Rich Howe. Rich, how is your week going as we get ready for the new year? It's about to be 2022.
It's going good. I don't like this little losing streak, though.
It's not a good way to go into the new year, is it?
No, not at all.
All right. But fair enough. We will deal with it. At least they got a point, right?
They did get a point.
They did, and they had to work for it. All right, so we're about to give you live game reaction, instant reaction to this game that we watched. We've also got to do our battle for the Central Power Rankings. We have not done those in a while. So I'm sure we're going to have some really fresh rankings for you as we rank the Central Division. So we're going to do that. We want to do Clutch Performers of the Week. I think we can come up with 3. On the fly. We'll have fun with it. We'll do some Clutch Performers of the Week. That's a new segment that we started doing on Thursdays, and we are going to do that tonight on the fly. We'll come up with it. We'll figure it out. And Rich is like, ooh, I wasn't ready for that. Hey, you got to be ready, man. Hey, you got to be ready. You got to be on your toes, man.
I know.
Also, of course, we're gonna quickly react in our quick hitters to the World Juniors being canceled. That's a very unfortunate thing. We'll get into that. And on that, we got a very special guest lined up for you to round out tonight's episode. Oh, yeah. You're gonna get smarter tonight, everybody. Just be ready for it. You got to listen to this entire episode. You might not get smarter listening to me and Rich, but guess who you're gonna get smarter from? We have Eric Dene coming back to the podcast. He's been on before. He was on in like August, way before the season started. He was kind enough to come back to the podcast and really get us caught up on Preds prospects. He is part of On the Future, part of SB Nation. He is the best follow you can find to get caught up on all the Preds prospects. So he is going to join us at the very end of this episode. You got to download the episode the next day to hear this interview, so stay tuned for that. So that's what we got in store for you for episode 92. Yep. Let's get into it, Rich. So the Preds lose 4-3 in a shootout. It went 5 rounds against a team that they have historically dominated. I'm talking when I say historically, I mean like seriously. The Preds have always dominated the Columbus Blue Jackets. No matter how good the Blue Jackets are, the Preds have always found ways to dominate this franchise. But tonight, I got to tip my cap. The Blue Jackets, they came to play. They didn't mess around. They got to David Riddick early in the game. Rich, fill us in. How did this game get going? And do you think the Preds are really suffering from their 11-day break due to the NHL pause that they had to go through? Do you really think the Preds are kind of suffering from a lot of rust? You really saw the first period tonight. Give us your takeaways. How did it look, man?
Well, Lindsay is in here with us. She says sums it up. I know this break was going to hurt the Preds after 7-game winning streak. Absolutely. That's what they're running into. They don't have Roman Josi. That is a huge, huge loss. You can plug the hole with as many people as you want, but that's not going to get. We are not going
to replace Roman Josi. I said that going into this. When I found that out, I was like,
"Yep."
I was like,
that,
yeah,
it's bad, and well, it's not all bad. I mean, but it's not good. And the same with Colton Sissons. That's another hole that's going to be tough to fill. Even Tommy Novak. I mean, the way he plays, he's doing really well as well. But tonight, better first period than they had against the Capitals. That's for sure. They had 12 shots on goal. Columbus only had 6. Michael McCarron scored his first goal as a Predator.
And Matt Luff got an assist.
Yeah, that's true. And it was a really nice goal. It looked great. Good to get them on the board early. But then Riddick got bit by a redirect. There wasn't anything he could really do.
You hate to see those goals.
You do. And
I hate them.
I hate it for him. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. He couldn't have stopped it. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. They just look a little – they do look a little rusty. They look better tonight, obviously. Of course, it's not – there's a big difference between the Blue Jackets and the Capitals. But I think the break did hurt them. And then not having Yossi and Sissons and Novak, I think you can see there's chinks in the armor. But, yeah, I mean, other than that, the game actually went pretty well.
Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this, Rich. So, first of all, I didn't get to see a lot of the first period because I was stuck in the glorious Nashville traffic. You know what, Rich? You would think that during a holiday week when nobody's working, that my work commute out of Nashville would be like, not that bad. Like a few cars here and there. Oh, no. Yeah, Nashville traffic does not take a break. And so, unfortunately, I had to lean on my very trusted co-host, Rich Howe, to really break down the first period for me. But it sounds to me like the Preds actually did respond from their really bad first period against the Capitals, even though it is against the Blue Jackets, which, let me say something about this. Even though the Preds have historically dominated the Blue Jackets, they're not a pushover in the Eastern Conference. Like they are a viable playoff contender, I would say. Are they going to win a cup? No, but they are a decent team. And so it was nice to see that the Preds responded with a much better first period. They preached that. They talked about that. They said after the game against the Capitals that they had to have a much better first period, and they did that. And so they get a point tonight. I want to touch on David Riddick for a second. Yeah. He got off to a rough start. Like you said, that first goal definitely wasn't his fault. Just horrible luck. David Riddick has had horrible luck in his entire Nashville Predators stint so far. And so I hate it for David Riddick because he's a really solid guy, and he does step up and make good saves in a lot of occasions as a backup goaltender. And what do you know? He did it tonight. He really came for the clutch time that we needed him for tonight. In the third period, the Blue Jackets were really putting it on the Preds. They really were. They ended up getting the tying goal, but they kept pressuring. And then in that overtime, what I witnessed, David Riddick had to be solid. He had to earn that nickname of Big Save Dave, and I'm talking about a really big save he made before it went to the shootout where he had to dive forward out of the crease to make a save, and he did it. I thought it was going to be a goal for sure. Yeah, it ended up making it to the shootout, and David Riddick made some really good saves in the shootout as well.
He did. Yeah.
So stick taps for David Riddick. It was not his fault tonight that the Preds lost this game at all. I know he gave up 3 goals, but 3 goals in this league is not that bad at all, honestly. It's just one of those games where, sometimes it doesn't break your way, but I think this is a building block game for David Riddick in his next start whenever that happens.
I agree. In the overtime, he fought off there was a Matt Duchene got called for a penalty. That put them at a 4-on-3, and the Blue Jackets, they had some pretty good shots, and he fended them off. So, yeah, that's a tough situation to be in right there. So that was. Did you see
how enraged Matt Duchene was?
I did.
All right, so normally Matt Duchene is a calm, cool, and collected customer. He is very chill. He's very locked in. He was beet red, as red as a cherry. He was, to the point where he was like literally trying to get at the official.
I saw that too.
And the other official whisked him away to the penalty box.
Yeah.
He was so infuriated. And you know what? You love to see that out of a player like Matt Duchene. What did we hear about Matt Duchene for so long?
Yeah, soft.
Didn't care. He takes plays off. He takes games off. He's not in it for the team. Well, you know what? When you see him like that in that moment, that pretty much squashes all that. He looked so just enraged. I saw raw emotion from Matt Duchene. And not to mention, Matt Duchene played a very, very critical role. Mike Twitter comes in here and says, loved that Matt Duchene rage. I do too. Yep. Bottle that up. Bottle that up and carry it the rest of the season. So those two Preds goals, not the Michael McCarron goal, but the next two goals were all Matt Duchene and his ice vision, his puck handling, his ability to read the ice and read the play. I'm not trying to take anything away from Nick Cousins, because Nick Cousins goal was so dirty. Anytime you bank a shot off of the goaltender's back, that is straight dirty. That's a crime. Elvis Merzlikins gave him that stink eye.
Of course he did.
And you know how Cousins is. Cousins is such a cocky individual, and he was going for that. Cousins was trying to score a goal that way. So all the credit to Cousins for that goal. But
it was pretty.
A weird angle, and he banks it off the goaltender's back. The only way that puck's going in is if he banks it off of his back.
Yep. Oh, yeah. He was behind the net. So
yes. But hey, but I'm still telling you, that was all because Matt Duchene on both goals. What was the other goal? Who scored the other goal? Ryan Johansson.
Ryan Johansson, yep.
That's all a product of Matt Duchene's ability to read the play. Ice vision. Ice vision, that's what it is. So Matt Duchene collects 2 assists tonight. He looked very engaged in the game all night. So he's a big takeaway from this game. Again, the Preds do lose. They get a point. They lose in the shootout. Just one of those games where, hey, somebody has to win. I do tip my cap to Columbus. I think Columbus played a really good game. I think Elvis Merzlikins played a really, really strong game in net. We know that Elvis Merzlikins is a very underrated goaltender in this league.
He is.
So sometimes you got to tip your cap to the other team.
He played well, and he was probably a little ticked off from the last time he met the Predators.
Yep.
When he got pulled in the first period, but
I tip my cap.
He's a great goaltender. There's no doubt about that.
And he has an awesome first name too.
Yeah, it is pretty good.
Elvis has left the building.
Elvis has left the building.
It's too easy. It's too easy.
Yep, with 2 points tonight. So anyway, yeah, it was tough, but you can kind of see Duchene getting back into form, and that's definitely something good that we want to see a lot.
Well, here's another thing. Here's another thing too, Rich, and I want to see if you agree with me on this. When you take out Roman Josi, Colton Sissons, and Tommy Novak, who are all three of them are so vital to this team's 7-game winning streak that they built going into the break. You take them out of the fold, and then you add in players who were already missing time before the break. Yep. So as great as Mikael Granlund is, as great as Ryan Johansson is, who scored a goal tonight, as great as those players are, Philip Tomasino got back in there, and he got robbed by Merzlikins.
He sure did.
On a point-blank opportunity tonight. As great as those players are, you're asking players to come in off the shelf cold in the middle of a season.
Mm-hmm.
The trade-off is very hard to overcome.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to make excuses for the Predators, but they could have beat the Capitals on Wednesday. They could have, despite despite opening the game down 3-0, they could have stole 2 points in that game. Yeah. They didn't. They ended up losing. You can't fall behind 3-0 to a who I think is still a cup contender. I think the Capitals could win a cup this year. They're that good.
They're first in their division right now.
Yes. So you can't fall behind 3-0. But they still could have won. They still could have gotten 2 points in that game. They could have.
They could have.
You follow up with the back-to-back without your team captain, Roman Josi. And, again, sometimes you got to tip your cap to the other team that just had the right balances, found the right ways to win, and it goes to a shootout in 5 rounds, and you lose the game. You don't get the extra point. But the Preds battled. They got a point at least to take something with them. And now they got who? The Chicago Blackhawks next? So,
Saturday
yes.
Afternoon.
So let's move on. It always sucks to lose. But you know what? Out of these 2 games, honestly, coming out of that break, you can still feel pretty good about it. I feel pretty good about it.
I do too. If they had laid down and not played well, then I would have been very upset, but to see them fight back in the Capitals game, down 3-0, the way they scored 3 goals in 8 minutes, that just shows you their fight, and they don't give up. And I was actually expecting them to come out a little flat tonight because that Capitals game was rough.
It was.
I mean, it was a lot of fighting. Borowiecki got put in the penalty box for 17 minutes. It was a really tough game, so I expected them to be a little flat, but they weren't. I mean, they played really well. I mean, and like you said, it came down to the shootout, and it just didn't happen. So, but move on to Chicago, or it's at home Saturday, and we'll see what happens. I think it'll be a good game.
It should. Oh yeah. Anytime you get with the Chicago Blackhawks, it's always a good game.
Yep.
So the way this game opened up, the Blue Jackets, they had 2 goals, but they only had like 6 shots on goal, so it was very misleading.
Yeah, it was.
The Preds were playing pretty decent defensively. They were doing some things, and Merzlikins was the difference maker early on.
Mm-hmm.
Shot totals end up being 34-29 in favor of the Predators. Preds win the faceoff circle. They go perfect on the penalty kill, 3 for 3. They also get a power play goal tonight.
Yeah.
They win the hits narrowly. They win the blocks. They did everything you could do to maybe win this game other than, you talk about that David Riddick goal, the first goal where it was a unfortunate ricochet-style goal. Sometimes that's what beats you. Unfortunately, this game is like that. Sometimes it can happen that way. And then, of course, the Blue Jackets really put it on the Predators in that third period by putting up 12 shots on goal. And then they added another 4 shots on goal in that overtime period. So the Blue Jackets, they kind of woke up.
They did.
And really, that's why I'm saying tip your cap to the Blue Jackets. They didn't fold, and they woke up as well in this game. And that's what happens in this game sometimes. Sometimes you you play a great game, you can feel good about it, but you still come out with the loss.
Yep, absolutely. The second goal that Columbus scored, that was a little breakdown by the Predators. Patrick Laine scored. Snuck in and scored that one, but little lapse. But overall, good. I thought they played well. Just didn't happen. Just didn't get it on the shootout. So.
And let's talk about one more thing. We cannot get past this reaction of this game without talking about Tanner Jeannot. Is he undefeated on fights this year? I don't think this dude's ever lost a fight.
He is such a brute.
He is a brute. I say bulldog. My term for him is bulldog.
Yeah,
I feel like Tanner Jeannot looks for it. He looks for an excuse.
I think they all do.
They all do. But Tanner Jeannot, man. Tanner Jeannot, this dude is like literally, give me a reason to want to clock you and I will do it. That's Tanner Jeannot.
I can't remember the guy he was fighting, but he just had a hold of the guy's jersey, and like the guy kind of fell down a little bit, and Jeannot like picked him back up.
He's like, I'm not done with you.
He came like way back here and just like
Tanner Jeannot's like, hey, Tanner's like, I'm not done with you yet. Like, we're not done with this.
We're not finished. I'm going to hit you one more time. So, just warning to people: don't linger around in front of the Predators' net because you're going to get probably hit.
So I actually think that Tanner Jeannot is slowly and gradually building a league-wide reputation to not mess with him. And I know that sounds cliche. I know it sounds a little corny, but I'm telling you, word gets around.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this guy right here, let's maybe not, because there are certain players in this league who don't want to get mixed up in all that. Yeah. They're like, you know what? That's not my game. That's not my style.
Yep.
I'm not going to mess with that. And I'm telling you, in scouting reports, there's certain players eventually who are going to realize, yeah, I think I'm going to pass on going after Tanner Jeannot. It's a real thing. It really is.
Not a good idea.
And there are other players who love it. They feast on it. They're like, that's why I play this game, is I want to fight. Yeah. I don't think Tanner Jeannot should be put in that box, by the way, because Tanner Jeannot does have other skills to his game. He's not just a brute that brings no other value like some NHL enforcers are. He can score goals. The last time I checked, he's 5th in the league in rookies in points. And he's only 10 points. He's only 10 points behind the rookie phenom Lucas Raymond of the Detroit Red Wings. So obviously, Tanner Jeannot is not just a rugged player. All he wants to do is fight. That's what's so amazing about Tanner Jeannot is not only can he fight and not only will he put you down, but he will also score a big goal on you as well. Like, you love it.
I think the fighting for him is more reactionary. Like I think that fight he got in was because the guy hit Yakov Trenin, and he just takes up for his teammates. He doesn't look to fight, I don't think. But if you mess with him,
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think he looks to fight in a dirty way. Don't take me wrong there. I don't think he's dirty. I don't think Tanner Jeannot is a dirty player at all. Not even close. Not even a shred. What I'm trying to say is, you give him a reason.
There you go.
Then to make a statement in that area, he will do it. Whereas there's a lot of NHL players that's not their style. Yep. They're not going to get sucked into the scrum unless they absolutely have to. I don't think Tanner Jeannot is not that. He will get in it if he has to, and he's called upon. That's my point.
Much.
That's my point.
Yeah, it doesn't take much to get him to go after you.
So can we just go ahead and count our blessings that David Poile protected him in the expansion draft?
Absolutely.
I think that's
weird at the time, but
I think that's every Preds fan's Christmas gift from David Poile is that he protected Tanner Jeannot in the expansion draft.
Yeah, smart.
And also, we also got a gift from Seattle that they did not take Colton Sissons.
Absolutely.
I know you love some Calle Yarncroke. I know you do. But that turned out to be a really good development for the Preds that they did not take Colton Sissons.
Yeah, this season it sure did. He's having a much better season than Calle Yarncroke, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Isn't that for sure?
It's rough for him. But, yeah, I really miss – Sissons is like taking his place on the Predators for me. So I really like him a lot.
All right, so not all is lost here. Even though the Preds lost, they got a point. They are at 40 points on the season, 19, 11, and 2, and they are only 1 point out of first place.
Yep.
The St. Louis Blues actually overtook first place last night. So you got the Minnesota Wild, who are kind of on hiatus right now due to COVID pauses and postponements. So the Preds and the Wild are tied at 40 points, but the Wild have 2 games in hand, so you can't really buy into the point totals right now because the games are not even. Look at Colorado. Colorado is the 4th place team. They've only played 27 games.
Yeah, and they're only
because they've been on the shelf.
Yeah.
So we can't buy into the point totals. It's nice to see the Preds are tied for second, but you know what? We got to look at the point percentages here. The Preds are a .625 point percentage, and guess what? The other 3 teams around them all have higher point percentages. The Blues, the Wild, and the Avalanche all have higher point percentages. So really, the realistic, fair place to put the Preds is they're a fourth place team right now.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry that I just bursted everybody's bubble right now, but they're not a second place team. They are a fourth place team.
It's true. We're not homers.
I'm sorry. I know I'm the Grinch. I'm the late Christmas Grinch.
Nah. If you look at the goal differentials too is insane.
Yeah. Well, you look at the other three teams that are surrounding them: Colorado, Minnesota, St. Louis. They're all plus 20 or higher in goal differential. The Preds are only plus 7.
Yeah,
it's a good point.
Yeah. It's just totally different styles of play. That's for sure.
All right. So that's it. The Preds lose 4-3 in a shootout to the Blue Jackets. If they could have gotten that extra point, Rich, I'm sorry to rub salt in the wound, but if the Preds would have gotten that extra point, they'd be tied for first place officially right now.
That would be awesome. But you know what? It's okay.
It's okay.
All is not lost.
All is not lost. There is still 50 games left in this regular season for the Nashville Predators, so it'll be okay.
Yeah. Now, if they drop a couple more in a row, then we can maybe get a little worried.
All right, Rich, we're about to have fun with this. Normally on our Clutch Performers of the Week, we would like to prep for this. But you know what? We're going on the fly tonight. This should be fun for our listeners. We debuted a Clutch Performers of the Week segment way back, how many episodes ago?
It was last Thursday.
No, it was the Thursday before. We didn't do it last Thursday because they weren't playing.
That's right. You're right.
And it was Christmas, wasn't it? Or we didn't do we didn't do an episode the week before Christmas.
That's right.
All right. So this is actually only our second time we've ever done this segment. Clutch Performers of the Week. Now this segment, it really rides on regular games being played. So when the random unfortunate pause to the season happened, we kind of like skipped a week on our Clutch Performers. But we're doing it on the fly tonight. And we're going to do it because it's fun.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. So I'm going back to this Washington game here, right?
All right.
And you know who I'm going to go ahead and give a Clutch Performer of the Week to?
I have a guess, but go ahead.
You have a guess.
I bet it's UC Saros.
Nope. It's my number 3.
Okay.
It's my guy Dante Fabro.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
He's not good enough to be number 1 because he looked a little lost on a goal that the Capitals scored in that 3-0 barrage in the first period. He got a little lost in the zone, but he rebounded to have 2 assists in the game. He was very involved in the game. And what did I tell you leading up to that game, Rich? I said I want to see Dante Fabro step up in Roman Yossi's absence.
And he did in that Capitals game, that's for sure.
I don't think he completely lived up to Roman Josi, but who can? I mean, that's asking way too much. But I do think he played a really good game. And so he's my number 3 clutch performer. He put up 2 assists in the game, put up over 20 minutes of ice time, also put 2 block shots out there. Only 17 minutes of ice time, I'm sorry. So he didn't put up Roman Josi time at all, but still, I thought he rebounded to have a pretty decent game. So he's my number 3 clutch performer of the week. Give me one from you.
I am going to go with somebody from tonight.
All right.
I'm going to say Nick Cousins.
That's a good pick.
Just because of that goal. He purposely bounced it off Merzlikins' back, and it went into the goal. It was very pretty. It doesn't get more clutch than that.
And that is so hard to do. That is so hard to do.
Yeah. You don't see that very often. I've seen it before, but
to just be able to all right. So I used to play basketball. That was like one of my favorite sports when I was in middle school, in high school. Didn't have the genes, I guess you could say, to be tall enough to really make it far, but I loved playing basketball. A bank shot is like a very valuable tool to have in your game in basketball. Oh, yeah. Hit the bank, right? Just hit the bank. If you hit it in the right spot, that ball is going to go in. That's what they teach you.
No matter what.
Well, in hockey, that's like a whole nother stratosphere. And somehow Nick Cousins figured out a way to bank a puck off another human's back into a net.
Yeah.
So, Rich, Rich, that's a pretty good entry there to the clutch performers of the week.
Yeah. And his back is about equal, close to, a little bit shorter than the top of the goal. So just to have it like angle it the right way to get it to bounce in, is just
and Merzlikins, his look on his face, he had that stank eye, and he was looking like, you really just did that to me.
Hey man, you got to get him however you can get him.
Because literally nothing a goaltender can do about that.
No.
From that angle that Cousins was at, there's nothing you do about that. So that's got to be so frustrating as a goaltender who's playing as good as Merzlikins was playing in that game to give up a goal that way.
Yeah.
That's got to be frustrating. So, it's a good pick for Cousins.
Very good.
All right, my entry number 2 is also from tonight's game. And also, this player actually played decent in the Capitals game as well, even though he didn't get on the score sheet. I am going to go with Matt Duchene.
There you go.
Because he didn't get on the score sheet against the Capitals, right? And everyone wants to see Matt Duchene pile up the points. The expectations for Matt Duchene is through the roof. So anytime he goes a couple games without scoring a point, that's when all the criticizers come out. That's when all the naysayers come out come out of the bushes and want to pile on Matt Duchene because of his contract and all that. And so he finally comes back from his upper body injury. It was a big mystery as if he was going to be ready for that Washington game. And even though he didn't put up a point in that game, I thought he skated pretty good in that game. He looked decent. But tonight's game, he really, really looked back in form. He really did.
He did.
His skating was very strong. He was a major, major product in the 2 goals that the Preds scored to tie it at 3, I believe. Or no, they actually retook the lead. They took a 3-2 lead, didn't they? Yeah, they took a 3-2 lead. And so, he was the primary assister on both of those goals. And also, his skating is what really stood out to me. He found zone time. And he used his ice vision to find Cousins and to find Ryan Johansson. And then those 2 guys finished it off with the goals. So, Matt Duchene, he gets my second clutch performer of the week. How many times did we see Matt Duchene last season? He was snake bitten. He would make plays. And either he'd get stopped by a great save, or it would get blocked, or the person he passed it to would miss the shot. It would he just had really bad luck last season. A big part of it. So it's nice to see his luck bouncing back in his favor. And so I thought he was very clutch tonight in his second game back from injury by putting up 2 assists.
Yep. That's a good pick. He looked good. I'm not, he's playing well. He hadn't played in a long time. In the Capitals game, he looked pretty decent. Didn't get on the score sheet like you said, but 2 assists tonight. They were really good. So good. All right. So my second one, I'm gonna give it to David Riddick tonight.
Ooh, okay.
That dude doesn't get to play very much, and he has some really long stretches where he does not get to play because of the break and everything. And then his last start, I think they said he hasn't played since December the 3rd. So to play as well as he played, he made some really big saves tonight. I mean,
and how are you? If you're thinking about David Riddick, how is he supposed to get into a groove?
Yeah.
Not only is he a backup goaltender, but also with all these other cancellations and these postponements.
Absolutely.
I mean, the poor guy is like randomly getting these starts like once every 2 or 3 weeks at best. He was in the COVID protocols which really delayed his first Preds start.
That's right. Yeah.
So I mean, I gotta look this up. I think he's only had 4 starts all season, 4 or 5, 5 at the most. I'm gonna look it up right now to make sure I'm correct on that. But the point is, even as a backup goaltender, he has not gotten really any chance to get comfortable or to get back into the swing of things. You're talking about a 29-year-old goaltender who still has aspirations to be a starter in this league. Mm-hmm. Yep. And so he's on a 1-year deal. Let's be honest. And he probably sees the writing on the wall. He's probably not going to be on the Predators next season. I would bank on it. Probably
not.
And so every time he starts, it's a dress rehearsal for him for another team that when the offseason gets here, he's trying to be a starter for another team.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's appeared in 5 games this year.
Yep. So was he how many was he 2 and 3 or is that what it is?
So he
or 3 and 2.
So tonight was his 6th game he's appeared in.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, so it didn't count the other one.
Oh,
but yeah, I mean he takes the overtime loss tonight, makes 29 saves, gave up 3 goals. So this is going to this is what really kind of stinks. And 4 of his 5 appearances, he's had a save percentage below 90. That's that kind of stings you a little bit there.
Yeah, it does.
But I mean, you really want to see David Riddick succeed. And if nothing else, we know he's not the future of the Predators, but we want to see him succeed because we do want to see him get an opportunity somewhere else in the offseason.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
And so with that, I'm going to give you my number 1 clutch performer of the week. And I think this is going to surprise some people. They're going to be like, what? The guy took the loss tonight. I'm going David Riddick.
Oh, there you go. That's good.
And I know that's going to rub some people the wrong way. How are you going to pick your number 1 clutch performer? He lost the game. Okay, I'm not going to go with a goaltender who lost in the 5th round of a shootout he gave up. First of all, I think the shootouts are gimmicky. I hate the shootout.
I do too. I wish they'd end it.
So I'm not going to put the loss on him in that regard. Yeah, he gave up a goal in a shootout in the 5th round. He also made some really good saves in that shootout. He made some really outstanding saves in overtime. And he also made some really good saves in the 3rd period. If he hadn't have come up so clutch, the Preds don't even get a point tonight.
No, absolutely. And the overtime performance, like we talked about earlier when they had taken a penalty, like it wasn't just them skating around a little bit. Like they were really gunning for him, and he had some big saves in that. So.
And you throw in all he's up against, not really starting that much. He's a former starter in this league, a regular starter. So it's got to be hard for him to adjust to just randomly getting these starts every 2 or 3 weeks. It's got to be hard. I thought he really got locked in and stepped up to the occasion to at least get the Preds to overtime.
Yep.
And he went up against another really good goaltender in Elvis Merzlikins that also cost him from maybe getting the win tonight. But I'm telling you, if he doesn't come up clutch there down the stretch, the Preds are losing this game most likely. And then you're talking about 2 losses in a row and 0 for 4 on points, no points whatsoever. So don't discredit the importance of getting a point in that situation.
No, yeah, I mean that point's huge. Always, any point you get is a good thing. So yeah, I agree.
So now I want to really hear your number 1. This has got to be a player we haven't named, right? Or is it a player I named earlier?
Well, I named him, but as a
no, you're number 1.
Guessing, I know, but I was guessing one of yours. Mine's going to be Saros from last night.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
He played out of his mind. He had so many good saves.
But they lost, Rich. But they lost.
I know they did, but they would have been even worse, I think, without.
So you think they would have got ran out of the building?
Oh yeah. Once he settled in, it was his first game back. Everybody's off break. Once he got settled in,
that's fair.
He even made, I think, what could be.
Yes, that was
save of the year for him. Yeah, that was an amazing save. Came all the way across the net and kind of stuck his pad out and saved that shot. Was that the one with the stick? I can't remember. I think it was the one with the stick. But anyway, yeah. Even though they lost, I think had he not settled in and come up with some big saves, it would have been even worse.
So Rich, you always lean towards the goaltenders, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I do.
And I know UC Saros is your boy.
He is my boy.
All right, so Rich's list, 3 clutch performers of the week. We did this on the fly, so please forgive us. Yep. But it's fun. It's more fun that way. All right, so Rich's list was Nick Cousins, David Riddick, and his top clutch performer of the week. We're only covering 2 games here, but still, his top clutch performer of the week is UC Saros. My list was number 3 for me was... You remember, Rich?
I don't remember.
You don't even remember?
5 minutes ago. I forgot.
All right.
We've said a lot of names. Who was it? Tell me. It was...
you don't listen to me anymore, do you?
It was Matt Duchene.
It was.
There you go. I had to think about it.
It's okay.
Matt Duchene. Number 3.
No, number 3 was Dante Fabro. You don't listen to me.
Fabro. Okay.
Matt Duchene was number 2.
That's right.
And number 1 was David Riddick. I did leave UC Saros out. Not because I don't love UC Saros, but I cannot give him top 3 when the team did lose.
Yeah.
And didn't even get a point.
I just think
and Saros did let by a really bad goal in that game.
He did. I will give him that. I will give you that. But he still played down the stretch. It could have been worse.
All right.
And
so we've already figured out that Rich doesn't listen to me.
I'm sorry. So sorry.
All right. So we'll be more prepared on our next clutch performers of the week because
Mike Twitter Trennan got the scoring going after being in such a hole. That's a good one too.
And he's talking about the Capitals game last night. Yeah. Yes, he did.
Yep.
Forsberg could also be an entry. Forsberg scored the game-tying goal there. There's a lot of good choices. That's why this segment's so fun.
Yep.
But next week, I'm going to quiz Rich again. He better listen to me. I also, to be fair, though, because I am banging on Rich here, I had to think in my head who I had at number 2 and number 3. I knew I had Matt Duchene.
Yeah,
I knew I had Matt Duchene and Dante Fabro, but full disclosure, I couldn't remember who I had at number 3 and number 2.
So you bought yourself some time.
I did.
By deflecting it back.
I did.
That's awesome.
I did.
That's a good move.
It is a good move. Podcasting 101 when you can't think of it, just deflect it on your co-host.
There you go.
Let them fall on the sword.
That's awesome.
I'm sorry, Rich.
You're fine.
I'm sorry.
You're fine. I should have a better memory.
You're too nice.
We do throw a lot of names around, though. So.
And those are our 3 clutch performers of the week, though. We will have a much more researched list next week. Yeah. Hopefully we'll have a full slate of games. But that was fun. Send us your clutch performers of the week at Catfish Ice on Twitter, on Facebook. Comment on the stream right now on YouTube if you'd like. While you're at it, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We really appreciate it if you could. All right, we are presented by DraftKings, of course. DraftKings has a really awesome deal for all of our hockey fans that are listening to tonight's podcast. Hockey fans, the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, has a no-brainer offer that'll make you a winner once any shot gets past the goalie. We saw some shots get past the goalie tonight. You would have won if you would have used our promo code tonight.
You'll always win.
New customers can bet just $1 on any NHL game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores. And one team's going to score. So, yeah, it's free money. Rich says it all the time. It is free money. The NHL got rid of ties in 2005. That's a good trivia question for all your hockey fans here. NHL got rid of ties in 2005, so you know someone is going to light the lamp. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Throw down $1 on any NHL game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a goal. That's promo code THPN this week at the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Must be 21 years or older in New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager is required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. If the sportsbook is not available in your state yet, no worries. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Hockey Contest. Speaking of fantasy hockey, I was not told how difficult fantasy hockey was going to be this year with our official Catfish and Ice podcast league. It's like it's starting to become a full-time job just to figure out how I'm going to start a lineup.
And I question everything I do.
How's your team doing right now with all of the players in COVID protocols? Because I can't even figure out how to use a starting lineup.
Well, I'm winning right now against Phil and Phil.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know how the rest of the week's going to go. And that's who I was played last week, but they I guess they just carried it over.
They did.
Or whatever. But next week, it's me and you.
Oh, that's going to be fun. All right. No mercy. No mercy for my co-host.
No mercy.
So what's really hard about playing fantasy hockey in this situation is you've got some really important players who you're not going to drop them because they're going to eventually come back, but you also don't want to lose, but you know they're not going to play this week, so you got a wasted roster spot. For me, it's Miro Heiskanen, very talented defenseman for the Dallas Stars who scored me a ton of points this year. I'm not going to drop him, but I know he's going to get me 0 points this week, so it's like you're kind of like double-edged sword. What do you do here? Yeah. So I'm letting it ride. I'm letting it ride this week. I'm not going to drop any of my really good players, even if they're not playing. But you know who I'm facing this week, and he's whooping me?
Who?
The Goon Squad, Kyle Perkins, who does Perks Picks. He's whooping me.
Yeah.
It's also not fair that Perks Picks, Kyle Perkins has Connor McDavid on his team.
And that's, yeah, I know.
And he had Patrick Laine for the Blue Jackets tonight, so that hurt me.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah,
but
I've got Marc-Andre Fleury, and he's in the COVID protocol. And then Mikhail Sergachev, he's hurt. I have him as well, who's hurt.
So I'm coming in at third place right now, so Lucas Spiza, who manages my team, is pretty pleased with that. 7-3 on the season. We're in third place. Lucas Spiza likes that, but I'm telling you, if we hit a losing streak, I'm really worried about how Lucas Spiza is going to react. He's very unhinged. He's a very unhinged individual. He expects me to devote 6 hours a day to the fantasy team. I don't think that's realistic. He's a very hardcore fantasy hockey manager. Like, he's a little unfair, Rich.
I feel like you could put in 6 hours on this.
No.
I mean, like, yeah, whenever I do this, I'm like questioning. Because I know, like, we get texts. We get texts when somebody does something. And I know when I make a move of somehow you all get it, and you're like, what an idiot. Why'd you do
Rich, you're coming in seventh place right now. You got a 5-5 record. You're coming in really good here. But you know what? You've had some really bad luck this season because you've got a lot of points scored. You've just taken losses because you keep playing better teams. But I think you'll be fine. I think your team's going to be fine. It's been a lot of fun running this league, though. Yeah, and of course, we got to give a lot of respect to our two leaders in the league right now. Matt Hardesty has got the top spot in the league at 7-3, and then Lindsay, the David Riddick fan, the Big Flames fan. We love Lindsay. She is in second place right now in the league with a 7-3 record. So that's our update for the Catfish and Ice Fantasy Hockey League. With all of our loyal listeners who jumped in the league with us, we appreciate y'all so much. We hope y'all have a really good new year coming up here for 2022. Let's wrap up episode 92 with a couple good segments here for you. We're going to quickly do our Battle for the Central Power Rankings, and then we're going to dish it over to our interview with On the Future Preds Prospects, Eric Dene, who runs On the Future Preds Prospects for SB Nation. You're going to have to download the episode if you're watching the stream right now. He joined us for a really knowledgeable, good segment to get us all caught up on all the Preds prospects right now that participated in the 2022 World Junior Championship, which unfortunately got canceled early. They did play some games. We got some good stuff from Yaroslav Askarov, from Fyodor Svechkov, and also some other prospects who didn't compete in the World Junior Championship but are very close to making the Preds roster next season. So you're going to have to stay tuned for that interview. It's going to be at the very end of this episode. It was a really awesome interview, and we thank Eric a ton for joining us. All right, Rich. Let's do it. Let's do it, Rich. Let's do our battle for the Central Power Rankings. We missed it last week. We didn't do an episode on Thursday. So we've got 2 weeks worth of. Mike Twitter says, good night, guys. See you in 2022. Thanks for the post-game reaction. Mike Twitter, we will see you in 2022. Bringing in a new year. We can't wait to do it.
Have a good one.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Mike Twitter, for always watching the podcast and being a regular contributor. We can't thank you enough, man.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, Rich, are we still holding steady with number 8, the Arizona Coyotes?
If we're not, there's something wrong with one of the two of us.
If we're not, then we should probably just not do a podcast anymore. Although, can I say something?
Talk about hockey.
Can I say something, Rich? Did you get a chance to watch any of that crazy Tuesday night game between the Sharks and the Coyotes?
I did not, but I heard it was a high-scoring affair.
Final score 8-7. The Sharks did win. It went to a shootout. I will say the Sharks are not a pushover. Maybe not a playoff team, but they're not a pushover.
Nope.
The Coyotes managed 46 shots on goal in this game. So I do got to say something. The Coyotes at least they're not folding. They're not backing down. It's a lack of talent. That's the thing. They just don't have the personnel. They're going to be a last place team. Almost everyone saw that they were going to be a last place team. I don't think everyone thought they were going to be this bad necessarily.
No.
But they are at least showing some fight.
Yep. They do.
I will say that.
I will give them that. But, man, gosh, I just couldn't even imagine.
That game was wild, though. So the Coyotes, they were down 5-3 at one point in the second period. Then they make it 5-4. Then they fall behind 6-4. Then they make it 6-5. They fall behind 7-5. They make it 7-6. Then they tie it at 7-7.
Wow. That's crazy.
I mean, and then just the rest goes from there. I mean, it was really a 7-7 game. The eighth goal is a shootout goal. So the Coyotes, they are still in 8th place in our power rankings, but
absolutely.
I will say they're not folding. Although, Rich, do you want to know what their goal differential is this season? Are you ready for it?
You can tell me.
It's a -54.
That's bad. Bad.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's kind of hard to read.
Man.
I saw a really funny comment. I can't remember who it was. It was just a random thing I was searching, some thread, where someone was talking about how the season might be canceled, the NHL season. And a Coyotes fan chimed in and said, I would love for the season to be canceled because that means the Coyotes wouldn't have to continue to tank. They would still get the first overall pick, but they wouldn't have to keep losing.
Hey, I think they're probably going to get that pick.
Oh, yeah, it's a dead set. And I actually don't think they're tanking. I think they're just really that bad.
No, I think so too. I agree.
All right.
Yeah, they're still in the old. I think they're probably going to be there forever.
Forever.
I think like every week.
So Rich, we're going to be on episode 500 in a couple years, and the Coyotes are still going to be at number 8.
Maybe.
All right.
You never know.
If we're still doing this segment in episode 500, then that'll be also interesting in itself.
Yes,
All right. Number 7. Are we really ready to still keep the Blackhawks there? Because we got this team called the Dallas Stars, who we don't even know if they're going to play another game until February.
I have Chicago there still.
I do too.
They were playing better. They were actually, things were looking up for them, and then I guess it just turned.
The Blackhawks are a weird team. Like
they are.
Sometimes you think they're not as bad as they seem, and then other times they just look awful.
Yep. Fleury's on the COVID protocol, so that's bad for them. So I don't know. They're just They are weird. Like you said, they'll do really well, and then they'll just everything they build up just goes away, and they go back to not being good.
So the Blackhawks, they're 11 wins, 15 losses, 4 overtime losses for 26 points. They are 14 points behind the Preds, so a pretty wide gap between those two teams. And that's the next opponent for the Preds, so perfect timing there. But yes, The Blackhawks are also in my 7th spot.
Yep.
This will be the 3rd time these two teams have met this year already.
Yeah.
So,
is there any more? How many more? Is that it?
I think they play each other 4 times.
4 times.
I think you play every division team 4 times.
Gotcha.
All right.
I did not know that.
Number 6. How about you give your number 6 team first?
I put Winnipeg at number 6.
Whoa.
Yep. They got beat. They got beat by Buffalo. And then the Capitals just ran them over big time. They beat the Blues. I wrote down this note, but things just aren't going good for them right now. So I just had to move them down a spot. So
fair enough.
Yep.
I was really torn on who to put at number 5 or number 6, I should say.
It's hard.
But I actually, Rich, I'm falling in agreement with you again.
Oh, wow.
I got the Winnipeg Jets at number 6 as well. I thought they are one of the biggest disappointments to me in the entire league. They're not the biggest, but they're one of the biggest. Because I feel like they are so much better than their record indicates. Mm-hmm. But I can't just keep overlooking it. They're 14, 11, and 5 on the season, 33 points. They've got a +3 goal differential, so it's not like they're getting ran out of the building every night.
Right.
And I do think they have the personnel to eventually figure it out. They'll be right in the mix for, at the very worst, a wild card spot maybe. But they are at number 6 for me as well. I can't overlook it anymore. And so that's where I got them, which means I'm putting the Stars at number 5. But I really had a hard time. I feel like you could flip-flop those two teams.
Yeah.
The Stars, here's the thing about the Stars. It's almost impossible to rank this team right now because they were kind of playing a lot better there for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But now, pretty much their entire team is on COVID protocols right now. I don't know if you saw, but they put out an update on every player that's in COVID protocol. It's pretty much the entire team.
I did see that.
And what's really complicates things about their situation is a lot of the players they would like to call up to the taxi squad, which is back in the mix now, are also in COVID protocols. So their AHL affiliate is the Texas Stars.
Yep.
They've got I think I saw 13 AHL players also in COVID protocols.
What are these guys doing?
So I don't really know when this team is going to be able to return to the ice because they can't even call up players to a taxi squad right now.
So the league had the early break, and then that's when the break about midway through. That's when Dallas started.
Yeah,
all of their,
so timing wise, I don't know when the Stars are going to be able to make up these games. And what's really crazy is this is a repeat of what happened to this team last year when they missed a bunch of games. And then you had the really bad winter storm in Dallas, which forced the Preds and the Stars to miss a game against each other. I don't know if you remember that, Rich.
I do totally remember
that. They're almost going through the same thing again. So I kind of feel bad for the team, honestly, because it's horrible luck because once again, their season is being disrupted in a really bad way, even worse than the other teams. And they're going to have to cram a bunch of games once again in a really small amount of time. And you're talking about an older team this is like their last year to do something.
Yeah, and it's not looking good for them.
But I do got them at number 5 because I think if they can get back on the ice and they're actually playing regular games again, I got them at number 5 because I do think they that goaltender they got, Ottinger.
Jake Ottinger, yep.
He's gonna win. He's gonna be a really good goaltender, maybe a Vezina worthy goaltender in the future. Got a really bright future. So I give the Stars a puncher's chance to sneak into the playoffs again this year.
Yep. Well, they got a 2-game win streak going. They got the longest win streak now in the Central Division. since the
that
Predators
2-game winning streak is going to last for a long time because I don't know when they're going to play another game.
Yeah, so I wrote a note. They like the last game they played was against Minnesota and they crushed them. But then I thought about it. Minnesota might have had some COVID, some protocol guys, so maybe that's why. But I don't know. Whatever. I have them at 5 as well. So.
All right, gets a lot more difficult to rank these teams now, getting into the top 4. So, Rich, you do the honors. Who's your number 4 team?
I put Minnesota at number 4.
Whoa!
I know.
The team that was at first place for how long, and now you're just going to drop them to number 4?
Yeah.
That seems kind of harsh, man.
It is a little, but the last 2 games they played were big losses. Like I checked today. They lost to Vegas and then Dallas. This was before I realized that it might have been COVID related, but whatever. They got knocked out of first place. I just think the other teams that are the top 3 got a little more going for them at the moment. But
all right,
we could be wrong.
I've got the Preds at number 4.
See, and
it's not even because they've lost tonight and they lost the night before. It's not even because of that. You've got to look at the point percentages here.
Yep.
And to your credit, you brought up the goal differentials as well. The Preds have played the most games in the division, along with the Blues, in the entire division. So when all these games balance out, I'm looking at a team like the Avalanche. They've played 5 fewer games than the Preds.
Yep.
And they're 4 points behind. That's a big reason why they've played 5 fewer games. You look at the Minnesota Wild, who are tied with the Preds right now in points. They've played 2 fewer games. You look at the Dallas Stars. They're 8 points behind, but they've played 3 fewer games. So these games are going to balance out. Point percentage-wise,
yep,
the Preds are not as high up as it appears.
That's true.
So I got them at number 4, which is quite honestly way higher than I would have thought they would be at this point.
That is true.
So they're still outperforming expectations. I still think they're playing some good hockey, but the Central Division is a very difficult division. And when all things balance out and when this season really starts taking shape down the stretch, I don't know if the Preds have enough to hang in the top 3. I'm not convinced. I haven't been convinced yet. So I got them at number 4.
I would agree with everything you just said.
Except for the fact that they're not at number 4.
They're not.
So you can't agree with me, Rich.
Well, I do a little. I mean, you're right. They're like.
But so you've got the Preds at number 3, right? You're not that crazy.
I do. They still look good despite their losses, even the one tonight. So, and we also are forgetting. Well, we're not forgetting, but no Yossi. So
that's a good point. That's fair.
I'll leave
it
there.
But to counterpoint you, every team is dealing with.
They are.
They
are. But the Capitals have had the majority of their, like, they did have some guys out. Their defensemen, I think, were where they were hurt.
They weren't missing nearly as critical players as the Preds were missing. That is true.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah.
Yep.
But what you said about them, if they're hanging in at the top 3 spots, you're absolutely right. I don't know if that's going to be possible. So
when everything balances out and honestly, when the season can finally get some rhythm to it, the season has no rhythm. The whole season doesn't. I mean, games are getting postponed left and right. You got, every day you play, or every hour you get an update, and it's like this laundry list of players are in COVID. You can't even keep up with it anymore.
No,
And so I think once the season can hopefully catch some traction, hopefully the NHL can revise their COVID protocols a little bit here, and we can get some.
They did make one change. Did you see that?
Well, the CDC in general changed their quarantine to 5 days, and all the leagues are starting to fall in line with that.
Yeah.
The difference with the NHL, of course, is you have to deal with Canada, and that's going to always make things more complicated. Yeah. So a lot of people are upset with the NHL about why don't you be like the NFL? Why don't you be like the NBA? Well, it's a lot more complicated for the NHL because they're dealing with an international border here.
Right. Yeah. But at least knocking the days down to 5 from 10.
Yes.
That's a good
I think
start.
I do all these crazy people out there. I'm sorry, but I think you're a little crazy. That are saying the season's going to be canceled. That's not going to happen. There's too much money involved. I think that the NHL got caught flat-footed here. They didn't realize the problem. It kind of sprung on them, and I think that they thought our only way is to put a pause on the season, and then we're going to have to forego the Olympics, unfortunately. But I do think the season's going to eventually catch some traction here.
Yeah. And during the Olympics, if all the arenas are all booked up, you might be seeing your favorite team down at your local ice skating rink playing.
They'll figure out something, man.
They'll
I mean, they might have to play at neutral sites. I could see them playing at neutral sites.
They'll be playing at like Iceland South or something. Wherever.
What I'm saying is they will figure out a way to finish the season. Yeah, they're not going to just – it's not going to – it's just too much money at stake. There's too many ramifications, and it's just they're going to figure out a way to finish it.
I wish they'd set up a rink at Yum Center so I could go down there and watch a game. That'd be awesome.
I still – always crack up when I hear the name of that arena, the Yum Center.
Yeah,
it's a really funny name for an arena. It's a nice arena though.
It is
a really nice arena.
It is nice. I've been in it for a concert. It's very nice. So, yep.
All right. So you have the Preds at number 3. I have the Preds at number 4.
Yep. So you're.
I'm actually putting the St. Louis Blues at number 3, even though they are technically the first place team.
Yep. I agree with that.
And once again, I have them at number 3 because they've played the same amount of games as the Preds. So the Preds and the Blues have played the most games in the division. And I mean, I've been hard on the Blues all year. And I keep telling you, I think they're going to eventually cave in. They haven't done it yet. They've proven me wrong. But there's still 50 more games for them to come back down to earth a little bit. I got them at number 3, and I'm hoping that's their ceiling because my disdain for the Blues is very well noted.
Yeah, mine too.
The Blues are right up there with the Blackhawks for me.
Yeah.
1A and 1B on my despised teams.
Yeah. Well, St. Louis is definitely on my despised teams list as well. So. But
they're number 3. They're number 3 on my list. I got them ahead of the Preds, so you can't call me biased. I got them ahead of the Preds, even though I can't stand them. They are number 3.
Well, I have St. Louis at number 2, just because for the fact that they did have some rough spots, and they are sitting at the top of the division right now. So I will give them credit for that.
And their goal differential is impressive. They're plus 23.
Yeah, plus 23. So that's good. But ranking these guys is hard because the top 3 are separated by like a point or 2 right now, so that makes it really difficult.
And the Blues actually their most recent win is a 4-2 win over the Oilers, so that's
I saw that too.
That's pretty impressive. I mean, you can't even look over that. Yep. And as much as we can't stand Jordan Bennington, he is a great goaltender. He's a world class goaltender, and
he's a world class something.
Yeah, but he had a pretty big game against the Oilers in that win. So
he had a really good save. I saw a video of where he like had to reach back. It was like getting ready to cross the line, and he reached back with his glove.
So the Preds have only played the Blues one time this year. They beat them 4-3 on the road.
Yep.
Back in November. When do we see the Blues next? Because that's really, really that's what I can't wait for. First of all, we got the Winter Classic coming up.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely watch that.
I mean, up in Minnesota, that's going to be fun, and the Blues are playing in the Winter Classic. So I can't wait to watch that. That's going to be a lot of fun. They're playing the Winter Classic at the Minnesota Twins Stadium, baseball park. So that's going to be on New Year's Day.
They said the temperature was supposed to be like -6 or something.
Did you actually see where it's actually going to be so cold that they're going to have to heat the ice?
What?
Yes.
That's weird.
They're going to have to actually – it's going to be too cold for the ice.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of such a thing?
No.
They're going to have to heat the ice. I can't remember. It was a reputable source. It was an article. I didn't save it. Cool. But yeah, they're going to have to heat the ice. You want to talk about physics, whatever you want to call it. it's way over my head what I can comprehend. But they're going to have to heat the ice. And you know what's really crazy? So then you're going to get your outdoor game, Stadium Series game. Mike Twitter, you said bye. Now you're back. Hey, but we're back. Wow. We're happy. We're happy you're back. False alarm. Mike Twitter's still with us. All right, but yeah. So what I find kind of ironic is the Preds are going to be playing in an outdoor game on February 26th, so almost 2 months later, in a much more southern, warmer climate, and it's going to be the opposite problem most likely. Where we're getting 70-degree temperatures here in Tennessee in late December. I'm really hoping this doesn't happen in late February. We're supposed to get severe thunderstorms and tornadoes possibly on Saturday. If that happens, I told you that was like one of my Christmas wish list items, and one of the So
hey, you gotta look at it like this: they put ice down in Dallas, Texas.
They did.
Outside.
I can't remember how cold it was for that game, but they can. They have the technology to do it. They have the technology to do it. Apparently they have the technology to heat the ice as well if it gets too cold. So
I don't understand that. That's secretly one of a job that I would like to have is putting the ice down in the arena.
Oh, nice. That'd be fun.
Think that would be
That'd be a cool job.
Like those guys paint all the stuff and all that. That would be really cool.
All right. So, that's going to be a really fun game, though. The Wild and the Blues in the Winter Classic, that's good. That's appointment viewing for me, definitely.
I hope it snows.
And I think I can speak for Rich and speak on our behalf of the Catfish on Ice podcast. We are going to be pulling for the Minnesota Wild.
Yes. Nashville North.
All right, so you have the Blues at number 2. I have the Minnesota Wild at number 2.
There you go.
I know they've had a little bit of a rough patch here, but I still think they're going to be right there in it. They have a really good lineup of players. They can score with the best of them. They're good on special teams. I just think they do everything well. They do a little bit of everything well. They got to get through their own little COVID outbreak here. Yeah. I think they're going to come back just fine. They haven't played a game since December 20th, which was a 7-4 loss to the Dallas Stars. So it's going to be interesting to see. Their first game back is going to be the Winter Classic.
That's crazy.
So they're going to go almost a full 2 weeks without playing a game, and get their first game back is going to be the Winter Classic.
Be outside in negative 6-degree weather.
You want to talk about a test right there to come back playing that game. I love their team. You got Ryan Hartman, former Nashville Predator.
Kevin Fiala,
former Nashville Predator. Of course, you've got Kaprizov.
Former Nashville Predator.
You've got Zuccarello. You've got Eriksson Ek. They really are loaded on the front end with players who can score. Rem Pitlick, of course, like you said. They are loaded. And then defensively, I feel like they've got a good defense as well. So, they really do a little bit of everything well, and I think they're fully built for the playoffs.
Yep.
You don't want to face the Minnesota Wild in a 7-game playoff series.
Nope.
So I've got them at number 2, which process of elimination. I'm guessing we both have the Colorado Avalanche at number 1.
Yep. They went 6-2 in December. They crushed their schedule. The only losses they had were the OT loss to Ottawa and then the COVID loss to the Predators.
And don't let it fool you. Just because the Colorado Avalanche are technically in 4th place right now,
nope.
They have the same point percentage as the Minnesota Wild to lead the division.
Yep.
And they're also in a COVID pause right now. So when they get back, they'll be just fine. Their roster is scary good. They have not played a game since December 16th against the Nashville Predators. A game that shouldn't have happened, by the way.
No, probably not. Glad it did, but
both teams were decimated with COVID protocol players. The Preds did end up winning that game, but it turned out as the day went on, the Avalanche had way more players out than the Preds did, including Darcy Kemper, their starting goaltender, including Cal McCarr, their Norris Trophy candidate.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm telling you, once the Avalanche get through their own little COVID outbreak, and they're not scheduled until January 2nd to play their next game, so they're going to go over 2 weeks without playing a game. And they return to the ice against the Anaheim Ducks, which will be a formidable test. Mm-hmm. But I've got them at number 1.
Me too.
They lead even though they're on a long hiatus, they are number 1 on the Catfish on Ice battle for the Central Power Rankings.
For this week?
For this week, and I feel like they're going to be up there for a while, in my opinion. We'll see. But
I would say so. More than
all
likely.
right, real quick before we get to Eric Dene, who writes for On the Future, covers all the Preds prospects. That's going to round out episode 92. We're going to give you that interview. Let's give our really quick hitter final thought on the unfortunate cancellation of the World Juniors. It's very frustrating. Your heart breaks for those young kids who that's their dream. And for some players, it's the pinnacle of their hockey careers. They're never going to make it to the NHL. They know it, and they're on the bright stage of representing their country, almost like the Olympics. Same idea. You're representing your country, and it gets canceled 2 games into the tournament. Just unfortunate on all levels.
Yeah. I remember reading that somebody put on Twitter all the players who are, like you said, the ones who probably aren't going to go to the NHL, but are also so old they won't be able to participate ever again. So they lost. This was going to be their last chance to play, and they didn't get to play at all. So, yeah, it sucks. And then the other thing that sucks is they canceled the women's tournament too.
Yeah, and that made me so. That made me so infuriated that that they went with that double standard of, okay, you're gonna move on with the men's side with the World Junior, which we know generates all this money, and a lot of times all you gotta do is follow the money trail. Sadly, but they moved on with the World Junior Championship. But you're going to cancel the under-18 women's tournament, which I'm telling you, women's hockey is fun to watch, by the way.
It is. Yeah, definitely.
It was the hypocrisy of it. It was the double standard.
Yeah.
You either cancel both of them or you move ahead with both of them. And so the frustration about canceling the World Junior Championship for me is, why did it ever start in the first place?
Yeah.
Why did you go through with this charade? Why did you get all the, you have, young players who got their hopes up, and I think I saw Team Germany, they were taking photos on the ice, and then it just gets canceled. It's I remember that. It's a horrible look, and you expect more out of the leaders of these organizations to make the right decisions for these young athletes, and they didn't do it. Yep. They failed those young athletes, both the men and the women. They failed those athletes.
Yeah, and
they should be ashamed.
They should. Things on Twitter, they made it sound like that the governing bodies weren't very prepared, and that didn't have anything in place for if this was going to happen. And
that's the same old song and dance with both the NHL and other hockey organizations, is they weren't prepared. How about you get prepared for this stuff? I'm tired of it. It's got me really irritated, but we wanted to touch on it in episode 92 because it's arguably one of the biggest stories in hockey, and it deserves all the talk and all the attention. And the IIHF, which runs the World Juniors, they deserve all the criticism out there.
They do. Yeah, Mike Turtles and the world. Yeah, it does. It's
yes,
a bad look.
It's so bad. Sure. So I'm really hoping that next year we get a full participation for the men and the women, and that we can get past this. But it's really unfortunate and sad, and we really hate it for all those young athletes on the men's and the women's side. So we are gonna. On that note, we are gonna take a short break on the podcast here and get you ready for our interview with On the Future Eric Dene of SB Nation, who covers all of the Preds prospects. Stay tuned for that interview. This is episode 92, brought to you by DraftKings and part of the Hockey Podcast Network, Catfish on Ice, with Chad Minton and Rich Howe. Please stick around with us for that interview with Eric Dene of On the Future.